Good afternoon. We're going to be beginning in 2 minutes. We have some seats available. For anybody up here, if you have a seat next to you that's not being occupied, please raise your hand so people back here can come down and find a seat. So we got a couple right in here, one over here. So if anybody's back there that's standing would like to sit, we have a couple seats. Please come down and take them. The program will begin in 2 minutes. Good afternoon, ladies. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Bob Hart. I'm the president of the Santa Barbara Citizens Council on Crime, and I'd like to welcome you all to our event. And we're going to start right off with our honor guard coming in and then the procession of our award recipients. And hopefully no cell phones will be ringing during the presentations.
Please remain standing for the presentation of colors. Present arms. Order, arms. Colors, vote.
You may be seated. Thank you all for being here with us today, whether you're here live in person or if you're watching us on the TV. And this will be rebroadcast a couple times. You can check that on the back of your program. If you'd like to see yourself on TV, you can wave now and you'll be able to see yourself later. We're here today to honor some superior excellence within law enforcement. It is always an honor for us to do this, to just help show the community what wonderful things are happening out there on a daily basis from the men and women of law enforcement in Santa Barbara County. So we very much appreciate all of you being here to help us honor them. I mean, it's the standing room only audience here is a tribute to how much you all appreciate law enforcement, and we hope that everyone in the community will, and that from the press from this will help encourage all of you. So what I'd like to do at this time is introduce to you Jane Grand. She's a member of our committee, and she was married to Tom Guerry, who these awards are named for, and she'll give you a little history about that. Thank
you. Welcome from the Citizens Council on Crime and from the Guerry family. I'm really pleased today that Tom's sister is here with us, Billy Pryor, her husband Bruce Pryor, and we as a family thank you all, the citizens of Santa Barbara, the Council on Crime, and the department heads who make this possible. The department heads from our law enforcement agencies by submitting their nominations to the Citizens Council on Crime, and then the Citizens Council on Crime reviewing those nominations and presenting to our outstanding police officers behind us. We have over the years, and this did start in 1970, after Tom was killed in the spring of 1970, the Citizens Council on Crime was formed by a group of civilians who decided they needed and wanted to honor Tom's memory and also his sacrifice. So this is our 48th meeting, and we have honored over 500 officers in the last 47 years. Some officers have had multiple awards during their careers, but for the most part, it's been 47 years and over 5. It's a pleasure for me to thank you all for coming, and I hope you will be as interested as I was when I read the scenarios for the 20 officers that we are going to award today. Thank you.
Thank you, Jane. It's always a pleasure. I've had the pleasure over the years of serving with Jane on this committee, as well as the community thanks you for everything that you've done over the years. I'd like to also just introduce a few folks that are in the house here. And for some of them, they're actually loaning us their house. So Janet Wolf from the County Board of Supervisors is here. Representing Supervisor Hartman's office is Gina Fisher. And representing Representative Salud Carbajal is Elijah Ettinger. So with that, I think it's time for us just to jump right in and start giving some awards to these deserving folks. So we're going to start off with Chief Deputy Sam Groth of the Santa Barbara County Sheriff's Department and Sheriff Bill Brown.
Well, thank you, Bob, and good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here once again for these incredibly prestigious awards that are being given to so many deserving members of our law enforcement community. I want to thank the Citizens Council on Crime. In particular, I want to thank Bob Hart for his service as its president for many years and his interface between the Council on Crime and law enforcement in the distribution of these awards. And of course, I want to thank the members of the Guerry family who are here tonight and have been with us so many times before. Tom gave his life to preserve the American way of life. And we need to all remember that it takes more than bullets to destroy the thing that Americans cherish the most, and that's our freedom. And freedom lives, and through it, Tom Guerry lives in a way that humbles the undertakings of those of us who have followed in his footsteps. So thank you very much for being here and for continuing to support these prestigious awards. It's my pleasure tonight to kick off the awards with one to the senior statesman of the Santa Barbara County Sheriff's Office, the person who has been with us the longest and has done an incredible job with his career, and that's Chief Deputy Sam Groth. He has served the law enforcement community and the Santa Barbara County Sheriff's Office with honor and distinction for nearly 46 years. He was hired on the department on July the 27th, 1971. In 1972, he attended the police academy, and he was recognized as having the highest scholastic record in the class. Sam has served the sheriff's office as a sheriff's deputy, a senior deputy, sergeant, a lieutenant, commander, and as a chief deputy. His assignments and duties have included patrol, detectives, the Isla Vista Foot Patrol, the custody branch, and crime analysis. He's qualified as a dispatcher, as a polygraph examiner, and as a member of the hostage negotiation team. He's also served on the Honor Guard. His personnel file contains no fewer than 62 letters or memos of commendation for a variety of activities. Many of them covered numerous years of planning for Halloween and other events in Isla Vista. He has also represented the Sheriff's Office in presentations around the United States on various topics. Interestingly, in 1981, he was commended by then Sheriff Carpenter for having performed 265 polygraph examinations during the year previously, which greatly assisted both criminal investigations and the hiring process of the Sheriff's Office. His commendations all reflect a career of caring for people, both inside the organization as well as the public he has so diligently served. Numerous letters refer to his compassion, his willingness to go the extra mile, his tenacity in following up on criminal investigations. Chief Groth is directly responsible for the introduction of some modern technology, and in particular, computer data analysis to the Sheriff's Office. He was specifically commended for having computerized the crime analysis function. Sam is highly respected in law enforcement circles. Several generations of sheriff's personnel describe Sam as a mentor and as a provider of sage counsel. His knowledge of the workings of the Sheriff's Office, specifically, and county government in general, combined with his network of relationships and the high level of respect which he is accorded by everyone who knows him, make him an invaluable resource. His latest iteration involved mentoring the undersheriff and the chief deputy of custody, both of whom came from outside our organization. Both of these professionals spoke of Sam's unselfish devotion to the Sheriff's Office and his willingness to do everything possible to facilitate their successful integration into our agency. In summary, Chief Deputy Sam Groth is a consummate professional who has devoted himself to public service through law enforcement. Throughout his career, he has displayed professionalism, integrity, and an unsurpassed devotion to duty. And it's my privilege, on behalf of the Santa Barbara Citizens Council on Crime, to present the H.Thomas Guerry Award for Superior Performance, Chief Deputy Sam Groth.
I don't know if you saw the little ribbon that goes along there, but I was asking Sam how long he's going to be able to wear that on his uniform, and he says about 2 more months. So he is facing retirement finally. I also want to take a point of personal privilege here, and that is back in the late 70s or early 80s, somewhere along in there, I worked with Sam Groth at the Isla Vista Foot Patrol. And I got to tell you that we had some fun times, made some great arrests together. There's something about the two of us being on the street. We'd be out there on our bikes cruising those alleys and catch burglaries in progress and things like that. And as the sheriff was saying, he is the consummate professional, and he was a pleasure to work with then, as I'm sure he has been for the sheriff for many years. Okay, at this time, we would like to bring up 2 members, Michael Huffman and Scott Casey, along with Chief Martin of the Santa Maria Police Department.
Thank you, Bob, and I want to thank the Santa Barbara Citizens Council on Crime. As I sat there, I couldn't help but notice that Sam Groth still has a full head of hair, and my 2 detectives are coming up here now. We'll just say they're follically challenged. How's that? This year, the Santa Maria Police Department is honored to present 2 detectives for the Superior Performance Award. These 2 detectives possess extensive gang and criminal investigative skills and incredibly strong work ethic, and both serve as role models to less experienced detectives. They have been selected to receive this award for their investigative work, which is now known as Operation Matador, which has had a direct and significant impact on public safety in the city of Santa Maria, surrounding communities, and throughout the state of California. In the 14-month period from November of 14 through January of 16, the city of Santa Maria experienced an unprecedented 21 homicides, in addition to several other serious shootings that did not result in death. These were alarming figures in a city that normally averages 3 to 4 in the same period of time. During the course of investigating these crimes, it became apparent that most were somehow, some way related, and that the police department was now facing an organizational adversary of a sort that it had never encountered before. In response to this challenge, the Santa Maria Police Department brought its resources to bear while leveraging specialized assistance from several other agencies, including our district attorney's office, in an all-out effort that has become known as Operation Matador. Although the operation was a team effort involving all facets of the police department, detectives Mike Huffman and Scott Casey were the primary lead investigators and architects of the entire effort. Detective Huffman applied his exceptional investigative skills, his leadership, and his extensive knowledge of each case during the course of the expanded investigation, while Detective Casey employed his extensive knowledge of gang culture and his experience in the legal justification and implementation of telephonic communications surveillance. Both of these men displayed exceptional devotion to duty and a work ethic that is admirable. They saw this infinitely complex mission through a successful conclusion, often at the expense of their own personal interests and family life. As a consequence of their efforts, Operation Matador resulted in the interdiction and disruption of several murder attempts, the arrest of 16 criminal street gang members on charges of murder and conspiracy to commit murder, the seizure of firearms that were used in the commission of murders, and thanks to these two men, the community they serve has also regained a sense of normalcy and security. Now, due to the fact that this case was heard by the Santa Barbara grand jury, resulting in 50 felony counts, but has yet to be tried in Superior Court, my comments are intentionally broad and general. However, this does not diminish from the extraordinary accomplishments of these two outstanding professional detectives. I want to congratulate both Santa Maria Police Detectives Mike Huffman and Scott Casey. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. And as they're making their way down the line of handshaking, if we could bring forward Officer James Richards of the California Highway Patrol and Captain Pontus, who has been the commander of the Santa Barbara Station ever since May 2nd of this year.
Good evening. I'd like to take the opportunity to thank the Guerry family for honoring our officers as you have done for, as I learned, the past 40 years. That's amazing. I'd also like to thank the Santa Barbara Citizens Council on Crime, including President Bob Hart, for recognizing the hard work and courage of our county's law enforcement personnel. Sergeant James Richards has been a member of the California Highway Patrol for over 17 years. Prior to state service, he was a security police member in the United States Air Force. He graduated from the CHP Academy in April 2000 and was assigned to Santa Barbara. So he quickly developed ties in the community here and made Santa Barbara his permanent residence. He patrolled Santa Barbara on a motorcycle for over a decade and then took on the more challenging role of our public information officer for the area. He worked with our local media affiliates on a daily basis and coordinated numerous community outreach programs. In 2013, he was selected for a position in the CHP's legislative office at our headquarters in Sacramento. So he relocated up to Sacramento, and he received a commander's commendation for his analysis of legislation that affected the programs and operations for all California law enforcement agencies. On September 1st, 2015, he promoted to the rank of sergeant and got transferred back home here to Santa Barbara, where he currently serves as a field supervisor in our office. On March 1st, 2017, Sergeant Richards heard a broadcast of an injury traffic collision on the freeway involving an overturned vehicle down an embankment. He immediately responded to the scene and met up with the Santa Barbara County Sheriff's deputy, who had arrived first to assist with the collision. Witnesses had reported that they observed a badly damaged truck flee the scene and was either in the area of a Shell gas station on Turnpike Road or near Magna Vista Street on the opposite side of the freeway. After additional units arrived, Sergeant Richards and the deputy attempted to locate the hit-and-run vehicle and its occupant. Sergeant Richards first responded to check the Shell gas station before driving to Magna Vista Street. The deputy went straight to Magna Vista Street, where he located the truck, which had been abandoned. The deputy then located two men a short distance away from the truck on Hollister Avenue. Upon contacting them, he was violently attacked by these two suspects. Sergeant Richards arrived on scene at the deputy's location and saw the deputy on the ground in the physical altercation with both suspects. He took immediate action and tackled one of the suspects. Sergeant Richards and the deputy were able to control the two men until additional deputies arrived to help. So Sergeant Richards, your quick actions on March 1st prevented further injury to the Santa Barbara County Sheriff's deputy and likely prevented a deadly use of force situation. So for your many achievements, the Santa Barbara Citizens Council on Crime is proud to present you with its award for superior performance.
If we could have come forward Senior Deputy Probation Officer Harry Wright, along with the Chief of the Probation Department, Beverly Taylor.
Well, good afternoon, and I too would like to thank the Guerry family and the Santa Barbara Citizens Council on Crime for, again, recognizing 48 years of recognizing our law enforcement personnel. And I'd like to introduce Senior Deputy Probation Officer Harry Wright. It's Officer Wright's interactions with offender population on his caseload that are demonstrated by his dedication, experience, and high level of expertise. His history with the probation department has taken him across divisions, and whether he's working in the institutions, field services, or juvenile or adult divisions, his tenacity for ensuring that offenders are receiving services, are being held accountable, and are recognized for their efforts has been consistent throughout his career. And Mr. Officer Wright started with the probation department in 1981, and he was with us through 1987, and then he took a hiatus of 11 years and had a business. He moved to Hawaii, and we were happy to have him back in March of 1998. Officer Wright's personnel file is filled with accolades that he's received from his peers, staff of collaborative agencies, and offenders who have expressed appreciation for his support. In his current assignment as a member of Santa Barbara County's Compliance Response Team, Officer Wright is tasked with locating and apprehending high-risk offenders who are in violation status, many of whom have extensive and often violent criminal histories. Officer Wright and the CRT teams have been successful in accomplishing this mission and in locating numerous weapons and large quantities of illegal drugs in the process. Such was the case in the summer of 2016, at which time the CRT and detectives from the Sheriff's Office conducted a probation search, yielding an offender in possession of a firearm. And under further investigation, it was discovered that another offender had provided the firearm and was believed to be in possession of several weapons, including illegal weapons. A subsequent search was conducted after information was obtained as to this offender's location. And during the course of the search, the offender, who was clearly uninformed of Officer Wright's physical prowess, made the mistake of deciding that he was going to exit a window and climb onto the roof and jump in an attempt to avoid arrest. As he leaped over Officer Wright's head and landed on the street, Officer Wright chased him down, dove for his legs and pinned him to the ground, preventing his escape. And as a result, along with the arrest of this high-risk offender, a small arsenal of weapons, including an illegally modified AK-47 and AR-15, were located and taken off the streets. Unfortunately for Officer Wright, he sustained a rather significant injury to his shoulder, but has been recovering quickly from his surgery, and we're wanting him to be back soon. Are you back yet? Very soon. Great. Another strength of Officer Wright is his ability to develop rapport with our offenders and also with their victims. Having previously checked on the well-being of a victim of a domestic violence incident perpetrated by a high-risk offender, the victim remembered Officer Wright and his empathetic approach. She later contacted Officer Wright to provide him with some information that led to several illegal firearms and ammunition being removed from the streets. She also provided some detail that led to this offender's apprehension, as there was a warrant for his arrest. Officer Wright is also recognized for the importance of maintaining a balanced approach to supporting offender success and encouraging their compliance. He promotes offenders' efforts to avoid recidivism by providing incentives as they attain the various milestones associated to their case plans. He also fosters family stability through his interactions with the children living in the homes that he enters, checking on their well-being and offering them small tokens such as stickers and crayons in an attempt to demonstrate a positive image of law enforcement. Officer Wright's commitment to his job, dedication to the department, and superior performance make him deserving of this award.
Can I please have Supervising Investigator Greg Wilkins and District Attorney Joyce Dudley.
I'd ask Chief Investigator Dave Saunders to join me at the podium, please. Good afternoon. As always, I'd like to thank the Santa Barbara Citizens Council on Crime and specifically the President, Mr. Hart, and to all our colleagues from all the law enforcement agencies throughout Santa Barbara County. This is the one day we get to see all of you together, and it's always a great day. I also couldn't help but notice in the 27 years that I've been in law enforcement that for the first time there are 4 women in the front row of chiefs. Just thought I'd point it out. I've also asked Chief Investigator Dave Saunders to join me this year because this will be his last year attending the Guerry Awards ceremony as a sworn law enforcement officer. This August, Dave will retire after close to 32 years in law enforcement and join the faculty at the #1 community college in the country, Santa Barbara City College. So before we move on with this year's recipient, and Dave will kill me for this, please join me in applauding Chief Saunders for all he has done. Yes, he was 12 when he started in law enforcement. This year's recipient from the District Attorney's Office for the H.Thomas Guerry Award, and we're always so proud at all the years Jane gave to our District Attorney's Office, for superior performance is Supervising Investigator Greg Wilkins. Greg joined the District Attorney's Bureau of Investigations in 2006 after serving for 24 years with the Santa Barbara Police Department. His primary job is to supervise the day-to-day activities of the Bureau of Investigation South County operations. He also provides litigation support to the DAs prosecuting the most dangerous and complex cases in South County, while also conducting special investigations throughout our county. In his role as District Attorney's Office, Greg has always served as a role model for police professionalism. In my assessment, he's able to do this so well because he has set clearly defined positive beliefs which guide his everyday behavior. Anyone who has worked with Greg knows that he views the following characteristics as essential guidelines for human contact: integrity, truth, fairness, dignity, respect, service, humility, and love. Greg can always be counted on to stand up for what is right as he guides our office in achieving our mission: to pursue truth and justice by employing the highest ethical standards in vigorously prosecuting the guilty, protecting the innocent, and preventing crime. This is also Greg's final year as a law enforcement officer, so I've asked his supervisor, Chief Investigator Saunders, to share some of his thoughts about Greg.
Thank you, boss. And thank you all. You know, it is an amazing time in the criminal justice system. And I've got to say, at least in my career, this is probably the toughest time to work in criminal justice, whether you're a patrol officer, a detective, support staff, a law enforcement leader. The challenges are unlike anything I've ever seen. So to have this level of public support at this time for all of you that showed up today means a lot. So thank you all for being here. I wanted to share some thoughts. When I told, we call him Wilkie. When I told Wilkie he was getting the Guerry Award, he was flattered and sent me this email, and I said, I got to share that because I think what he says really represents what a lot of the cops in this room tend to believe. So I'm just going to read his email if that's okay. Sorry. He said, as I look back on a long career, I have to ask myself, and I've done so on more than one occasion, would I do it again? And there's absolutely no doubt or hesitation in my answer. If I had my youth back, I certainly would do it all over again. And I mean that sincerely. When I graduated from the police academy, Anaheim had a hiring freeze, which technically made me a level 1 reserve officer. I worked there for about 6 months and ended up applying for a police officer position in Santa Barbara. I was hired in 1982. I intended to work for just a year with Santa Barbara PD and then transfer back to Orange County. But after being in Santa Barbara for just over a year, I loved the area so much, I just never looked back. I became a detective in 1988, and I didn't leave the detective bureau until 2006 to come to the district attorney's office. As a detective, I worked very closely with the best of the best that the Santa Barbara County DA's office had to offer, which of course included Joyce Dudley. So, and then finally, Wilkie had something to say about his support crew, his significant other, which I think is really important. I'd like to share. His wife June, is she here? There she is. Sorry to embarrass you, but June has been my rock, my inspiration, and my strength for all these years. After 31 years of marriage and 3 wonderful children, she's been there for me and our family throughout it all. I need to thank her for raising our children almost single-handedly while I worked all types of weird hours, sometimes around the clock, amidst all the call-outs in the middle of the night and on holidays. It was teamwork, along with a strong work ethic that hopefully our children will recognize and emulate as they make their way through life.
Well, in a room full of many detectives that I've worked very closely with over the last 27 years, I do have to say that you were one of the very best I've ever worked with, and I'm honored that you enjoyed our time together when we actually worked, right? Some things don't change. You bring the same level of integrity and passion today that you did 25 years ago when we started working together. And you will be with us through 2017, so we're not saying goodbye to you yet. The citizens of Santa Barbara County are indeed fortunate to have Greg working for the District Attorney's Office. We at the District Attorney's Office, especially me, are grateful for him being such a significant member of our family. It is for these reasons that Supervising District Attorney Investigator Craig Wilkins is awarded the H.Thomas Guerry Award for 27. Thank you.
All right, brother.
At this time, we'd like to have come forward Detective David Lamar and Chief Walsh of the Lompoc Police Department.
You guys didn't know David was also sidelines as a Men in Black. If he pulls out something, close your eyes. So, Detective Lamar has been with the Lompoc Police Department since 2007. He's been a police officer from the beginning and is a valued employee. He's also an advisor to our Explorer Post and is currently a SWAT member. Detective Lamar has been the Crimes Against Children detective for 2.5 years. In the past year, Detective Lamar has handled several child abuse and molestation cases. Of note, 2 of the cases were very high profile. One case involved a husband of a popular daycare provider who was sexually assaulting the children while they were in his wife's care. Another case, the suspect was a well-known and popular figure in the community and a friend to many of us, including Detective Lamar and many community members. Detective Lamar's work on these cases has sent 2 monsters to prison for the remainder of their lives. Not only did Detective Lamar investigate these cases, but he was able to compassionately gain the victim's trust and convincingly gain confessions from the suspects. This is no easy task and requires total control over one's emotions, one I could not do. Before going further, it bears saying that this topic is difficult to discuss, and as a society we try to avoid and often bury this topic. As the Crimes Against Children detective, David Lamar cannot do this. As a matter of fact, he has tenaciously hunted and brought many of these predators to justice. This work is not easy, and each case leaves a mark on those who work them. Dealing with betrayed, scared, and innocent victims leaves more than a mark. It creates a hole in one's heart. There is no harder work in police work. There is no more important work. For his courage to confront evil and comfort the most innocent, I am honored to nominate David Lamar for the Thomas H. Guerry Superior Award.
Apparently there's a hairstyle requirement of all North County detectives. Is that true? All right. This time we'd like to call up Officer Adrian Gutierrez of the Santa Barbara Police Department, along with Chief Lunau.
Thank you, Guerry family and the Citizens Council on Crime for allowing me to be a part of this great honor. We have some incredible professionals here that we as leaders feel honored to acknowledge, but I think it's equally important for all of us to share this as much as we can with the public. We are live streaming this via our Facebook right now, but what this does, it presents the opportunity for us to share all the great work that we do that build the legitimacy in our everyday actions. So for that, I thank you all. Adrian Gutierrez. He's a rock star. Everybody who knows him loves him. He's been on the Santa Barbara Police Department for 16 years, and most recently as a beat coordinator as a part of our community services. He's worked patrol in his career as a police activities league officer and a gang resistance education and training officer, as well as a school resource officer. And he has received a Thomas Guerry Award for superior performance 10 years ago in 2007. Let me give you a little more about Adrian. He's one of our 4 beat coordinators right now, and on a daily basis, they focus on issues in the community. And he leads our community-oriented policing efforts, and he works on strategies to deal with longer-term programs in the community. Because he is homegrown, if you will, and grew up in Santa Barbara, he pretty much knows the entire community. And he is one, we have about 40% Hispanic individuals in our community, and he is one that every single person trusts because of his willingness to go above and beyond, to reach out and do what it takes to make sure people trust our efforts. So one of his noteworthy achievements as a beat coordinator has been his role of continued success in a Menudo festival that raises funds for our Youth Explorer program, which again is feeding our future of police officers, our homegrown officers that are essential to, I think, the trust in the community. Officer Gutierrez runs both our Spanish and English language citizens academies, and we just broke some records with our attendance this last academy. And in addition, he does a radio Spanish call-in show. And he does all these things pretty much on his own time because he works well beyond his 40 hours a week. So during this last year, because of budget cuts and whatnot, we weren't able to fill our school resource officer, and Adrian understood the importance of that role, and he took it on as an additional responsibility. So he worked closely with Santa Barbara High School and other middle schools as a school resource officer. He investigated serious crimes happening in schools and assisted the faculty dealing with crime truancy and other issues, and often counseled students. The assistant principal said that Adrian was very reliable. We knew that, but he touched kids in a way that always made connections. He was helpful in creating a climate of safety at the high school, and they added that they were lucky to have him. We know that they were. Officer Gutierrez serves on the board of directors for our local police activities league, and he's currently putting the final touches on a project to provide professional boxing training to Santa Barbara youth as a part of our police activities league program. In addition, he is a member of our department's crisis negotiation team, and he has successfully negotiated both English and Spanish incidents for barricaded suspects, suicidal subjects, and others in crisis. One of the things Adrian has been a great service for is he's been on the forefront of our department's efforts to inform the community in regards to our immigration issues, which have created a huge fear in the community. And so we've had numerous gatherings, and again, because of the trust he has in the community, everybody knows that Adrian can be trusted, and therefore the police department can be trusted, and everybody in the front row knows how important that is today to everything we do. So in saying that, Officer Gutierrez, and he hates every minute of this, he's definitely a shining example of our department's commitment to community-oriented policing. He's well deserving of the H.Thomas Guerry Award for superior performance, which I'd like to present to him right now.
We're shifting gears now from the awards for superior performance to the awards of the H. Thomas Guerry Award for Valor. At this time, I'd like to call up 3 out of 4 members of the Santa Barbara County Sheriff's Department: Sergeant James Zbinden, Senior Deputy Michael Harris, and Deputy Justin DePino. Also being honored is Michael Holland. However, he's on a family vacation in Kauai. However, let me just tell you how important these awards are to people. He did his best to get a flight back to be here and was unable to make arrangements. But that's how important these awards are to these recipients. So he is also being honored.
Well, thank you. It's my pleasure to present to you Sergeant James Zabinden, Sheriff's Deputy Special Duty Michael Harris, Sheriff's Deputy Justin DePinto, and Sheriff's Deputy in absentia Michael Holland. Sergeant James Zabinden was appointed as a Deputy Sheriff in July of 1995. He's worked patrol in our Coastal Division. In 1997, he was appointed to Underwater Search and Recovery. And in 1988, he was transferred to South County Operations in Isla Vista. He was appointed a Sheriff's Deputy Special Duty in 1999, was promoted to the rank of Sergeant in 2004. Sheriff's Deputy Special Duty Michael Harris was appointed Deputy Sheriff in July of 1999, initially assigned to the South County Operations Division, Goleta Station. He was then transferred to Court Services, and in 2007 he was assigned as the Sheriff's Deputy Special Duty in both Carpinteria and Goleta Patrol. Sheriff's Deputy Justin DePinto was appointed to Sheriff's Deputy in June 2007. He was assigned to patrol in both South County Operations and Isla Vista. In 2016, he was transferred to the Criminal Investigations Division, and later that year, he transferred to the North County Operations Division and worked in the Santa Maria Patrol Bureau. Unable to attend today is Sheriff's Deputy Michael Holland, who was appointed Sheriff's Deputy to the Training Bureau in July of 2006. In 2008, he was appointed to the Underwater Search and Recovery Team. In 2012, he was transferred to the North County Operations Division, and he's currently a member of our mounted unit. Late on the afternoon of June the 11th, 2016, deputies responded to the Paradise Campground in the Los Padres National Forest on the report of a disturbance in progress. Initial reports indicated a male suspect was acting in a bizarre manner and trying to fight with people at the campground. A subsequent report indicated that the male was chasing people and that he was armed with multiple axes. The suspect had reportedly battered a number of campers and a county firefighter whose engine company had responded to the call as a medical emergency. Sergeant James Zabinden and deputies Michael Harris, Justin DePinto, and Michael Holland responded to the call. While responding to the campground, Sergeant Zabinden decided to pull off the road prior to arriving in order to load less lethal munitions into his shotgun, meet with the other responding deputies, give assignments, and discuss their tactical plan. Sergeant Zabinden's foresight to coordinate this response and load the less lethal shotgun munitions prior to his arrival on scene directly contributed to this incident ending without the need for deadly force. Once the three deputies arrived at the campground, Sergeant Zabinden deployed the beanbag shotgun, Deputy DePinto deployed his taser, and Senior Deputy Harris deployed his expandable baton. As the deputies approached the suspect, he suddenly jumped to his feet and he charged at them. He aggressively attacked them with his hands and his body. Deputies utilized the taser, baton strikes, and beanbag rounds against the suspect, but he kept on fighting and resisting arrest. The deputies described the suspect as having almost superhuman strength and facing them in such a way that he did not respond to normal pain compliance technique. The suspect kept saying that the deputies were there to kill him. At one point during the incident, the suspect attacked Deputy DePinto and tried to take his baton away from him. The suspect struck Deputy DePinto in the head and caused a cut over his right eye. Deputy DePinto fought through the injury and remained in the fight. Deputy Holland arrived on scene to assist the deputies who were still actively engaged with the suspect. After a 10-minute-long struggle to take this suspect into custody, he was finally physically subdued and immediate medical attention was provided to him. Friends who had been with the suspect camping said that they had all been celebrating a bachelor party and all of them had ingested LSD earlier in the day. The suspect had an adverse reaction to the illicit drug and then began attacking people. During the initial attacks, the suspect threw the axes previously described at his friends. Fortunately, they did not strike any of them. He also battered an 80-year-old male, victim, assaulted a female victim, punched one of his friends in the face, breaking his nose and causing a concussion, and assaulted a firefighter, in addition to the previously described attacks on our deputies. In recognition of their courageous and resolute actions while under extreme and life-threatening circumstances, the Santa Barbara Citizens Council on Crime is proud to present the H.Thomas Guerry Award for Valor to Sergeant James Abinden, Senior Deputy Michael Harris, Deputy Justin DePinto, and Deputy Michael Holland. Congratulations.
So Sheriff, don't sit down, you've got more. We have a unique situation where we have two agencies that work together, and we have 6 folks that we would like to honor here right now. And that is Deputy Ray Gamboa, Deputy Bryce Bruning, Deputy Jesus Gutierrez of the Santa Barbara County Sheriff's Department, and Officers Steve Bennett, Toby Hall, and Clifford Powers of the California Highway Patrol Buellton office. With that, we have also Lieutenant Cruz joining the sheriff.
Well, thank you to the Guerry family and the Santa Barbara Citizens Council on Crime. We are honored today to showcase officers and deputies in the valiant effort in saving the life of a driver from an incident last November. This incident involved the coordinated effort of the CHP and the Sheriff's Department. My 3 officers, Officer Stephen Bennett, has been with the department for 17 years. He entered the academy in 1999. Upon graduating, he was assigned to the Santa Barbara area. Then in 2005, he transferred to the Buellton area. Officer Toby Hall has been with the department for 14 years. He entered the academy in 2002. Upon graduating, he was assigned to the Oakland area, Bishop, and in 2007, he transferred to the Buellton area. Officer Clifford Powers has been with the department for 12 years. He entered the academy in 2004. Upon graduating, he was assigned to the San Jose area, the Buellton area in 2008, and most recently, he's transferred to the Santa Maria area. In November of last year, our CHP Communications Center broadcast to be on the lookout for a vehicle involved in a hit-and-run collision. Shortly thereafter, California Highway Patrol Officer Stephen Bennett located the vehicle traveling southbound on US 101 at a high rate of speed, entering the city of Buellton, and saw smoke coming from the vehicle. Officer Bennett was able to run the plate, then positioned himself safely behind the vehicle to alert traffic behind his location and wait for backup units, which were Officers Toby Hall and Clifford Powers, who both heard the broadcast and were also responding. As the officers were preparing to initiate an enforcement stop south of Buellton, the driver of the vehicle moved into the right traffic lane, slowed as she approached the area of what we call 3 Bridges, which is just south of Buellton, and collided into the right bridge abutment, bounced off the abutment, drove across the traffic lanes, hit the left side of the bridge. After she hit the left side of the bridge, she careened to the right and then off the road across the dirt shoulder and descended a steep embankment where the vehicle came to rest against a tree. The vehicle at this point was dangling over the edge of a steep cliff. The tree held her vehicle in place from falling over another steep hill. Officer Bennett requested the fire department and medics. Officer Hall and Powers arrived on scene. All noticed that the vehicle was heavily smoking. They all obtained fire extinguishers, descended the steep hill side to the driver's aid, and assessed the unresponsive female driver. Ignoring that the vehicle any time could dislodge and fall down the steep canyon area, the officers attempted to extricate the driver by means of opening the door, which proved unsuccessful. The vehicle's engine compartment suddenly ignited, causing flames and heavy smoke to spread into the passenger compartment, including the surrounding brush. Due to the thick smoke and fire, the officers used a total of 7 fire extinguishers to try and stop the fire, continued efforts in trying to remove the driver. As the flames began spreading into the passenger compartment, the officers rotated turns, each using a fire extinguisher to keep the flames at bay, trying to get the driver out of the car until the arrival of fire personnel and deputies. At that particular moment, deputies from the Santa Barbara County Sheriff's Department arrived. Let Sheriff.
Thank you, Kurt. I'd like to take up the story here and pause for just a moment to tell you about the 3 sheriff's deputies involved in this incident. Sheriff's Deputy Special Duty Ray Gamboa was appointed as an intake and release specialist in 2004, and in 2005 promoted to sheriff's deputy assigned to South County operations. He's worked various assignments including Solvang, Goleta, and Coastal Patrol, Criminal Investigations Division, and North County Patrol. In 2008, he was promoted to Sheriff's Deputy Special Duty. Sheriff's Deputy Bryce Bruning was appointed to Deputy Sheriff in December of 2007 and was appointed to the Training Bureau. He has worked various assignments, including Carpinteria, Santa Maria, and Goleta stations, as well as court services. Deputy Sheriff Jesus Gutierrez was appointed to Custody Deputy in October of 2012, completed the Law Enforcement Academy, and has been promoted to Sheriff's Deputy since 2016. He's been assigned to both South County and North County operations. As you've heard, on the afternoon of Friday, November the 16th, the Santa Barbara County Sheriff's Office received a call for service involving a vehicle over the side of the southbound lanes of Highway 101 at 3 Bridges. Upon arrival, Deputy Bruning, Deputy Gamboa, and Deputy Gutierrez scaled down the steep embankment to assist the Highway Patrol officers on scene and found an unresponsive victim trapped within her vehicle. Heavy smoke and flames quickly began emanating from the vehicle's engine compartment, greatly diminishing visibility within the passenger. Recognizing the immediate life-saving danger faced by the vehicle's occupant, deputies and the Highway Patrol officers began working together in an attempt to immediately gain access to and extricate the occupant from the mounting danger within the vehicle. Deputy Bruning was able to gain access from the rear hatchback of the vehicle, whereupon Deputies Bruning, Gamboa, Gutierrez, and the CHP officers each took turns attempting to physically extricate the driver. The deputies and the officers rotated their efforts, providing relief for one another when they were unable to continue their individual efforts due to smoke inhalation. The deputies and the Highway Patrol officers employed a safety system wherein they held on to one another to ensure that they were able to immediately extract that person that was entering the vehicle compartment to render aid to the trapped occupant. When the fire department arrived, Deputies Bruning, Gamboa, and Gutierrez continued to assist in the life-saving efforts by utilizing the fire hose to try to extinguish the fire. The driver was eventually extracted from the vehicle by Santa Barbara County Fire Department personnel, and she was airlifted to Cottage Hospital. The on-scene Santa Barbara County Fire Battalion Chief commented that if it were not for the quick thinking and immediate actions of the Highway Patrol officers and the sheriff's deputies involved, the driver would most likely have succumbed to her injuries or the effects of the fire. In recognition of their swift, resolute, and life-saving action taken during perilous circumstances, the Santa Barbara Citizens Council on Crime is proud to present the H.Thomas Guerry Award for Valor to CHP traffic officers Stephen Bennett, Toby Hall, and Clifford Powers, and Santa Barbara County Sheriff's deputies Ray Gamboa, Bryce Bruning, and Jesus Gutierrez.
I see from the city of Goleta, we have City Councilmember Michael Bennett has joined us and has been standing along the back for a while. Michael, past fire department member, understanding what it was like to have those guys be out there going into that car. All right. At this time, I'd like to bring forward Sergeant Todd Johnson of the Santa Barbara Police Department and Chief Lunau. Come on back.
Sergeant Johnson has been a member of the Santa Barbara Police Department 15 and a half years after some time with Kern County and the Highway Patrol. We're keeping him, and I'll tell you why. It's the last one. He previously has won a Guerry Award back in 2015, but on June 28th, 2016, Sergeant Johnson displayed great valor, stopping a violent and potentially deadly assault while off duty. And he rides home after work. He usually works graveyard, so this was about 8 in the morning. And he headed down the street, and this was, again, after working a 12-and-a-half-hour shift, rode off on his bike, and he saw a male subject standing near a bench, a bus bench, holding his backpack up, protecting himself while another male was lunging at him with a large double-bladed knife. The male with the knife kept yelling racist remarks while trying to stab and lash at the first subject. The incident was escalating quickly in the area of Santa Barbara, State Street, and Anapamu. During 8 in the morning, it's got pretty moderate pedestrian traffic and vehicle traffic. So Sergeant Johnson knew he had to do something. He didn't have, as you can imagine, really much of his safety equipment, but he was armed with his gun and his Lycra shorts. No, which is all he needed. I know, I'll get that later. But from his experience and because of the location, he knew that he had to do something quickly. So, of course, like most officers here, they're peace officers first, and they're here to serve. So he put himself in the middle of the incident without worrying about others coming to help. He assumed officers would be coming sooner than later. So he stopped his bicycle away from both the victim and his attacker and moved into a position to protect the victim. He drew his firearm from his waistband, pointing it at the suspect, who was still armed with a knife and continuing to attack the victim, trying to stab at him. So Sergeant Johnson identified himself as a police officer, and the suspect then focused his attention on him. And thankfully, his commands to drop the knife were heard, and the suspect eventually surrendered and was able to be taken in, I should say, before being taken into custody. He had to call out to passerbyers to call 911 to get some help on the way. So officers arrived, and the suspect admitted he was trying to kill the victim and would have done so if it were not for Sergeant Johnson's intervention. So due to the quick, decisive actions of Sergeant Todd Johnson and his decision to confront an armed, agitated, and violent felon, the life of the victim in this incident was saved. In addition to the victim, he also ensured members of the community in the immediate area were protected and instilled the confidence in the community that law enforcement officers are there to protect and serve, both on and off duty, which is why he is being awarded the Guerry Award of Valor.
We have one more member of the Santa Barbara Police Department that we would like to honor with the H.Thomas Guerry Award for Valor, and that is Officer Kyle Rapp.
Officer Rapp has been with us for 3.5 years, and he is acknowledged for an incident that occurred on Saturday, June 25th, 2016, during the summer solstice celebration for thousands of Santa Barbara residents and visitors. At approximately 9 that evening, Officer Rapp was on duty as a member of our drunk driving team, and he was in the performance of a traffic stop when he heard people screaming and saw people running in the intersection behind him. Upon closer inspection, he observed 3 adult males actively fighting in the crosswalk and heard one of the fleeing witnesses yell that one of the subjects had a gun and directed Officer Rapp to the attention of that suspect. Officer Rapp ran towards the armed subjects fighting while relaying the above details to our communications division. During his approach, the suspect and the witness had the suspected witness had identified as being in possession of a firearm. The subject turned and fled southbound on the east sidewalk of 300 block of State Street in the direction of a small strip mall which had dozens of citizens dining on adjacent restaurant patios. Officer Rapp initiated a foot pursuit of the armed suspect, and then he observed the suspect look back over his shoulder at him and then reach into his waistband and retrieve a small black semi-automatic handgun with his right hand. So Officer Rapp responded by unholstering his own weapon and requesting additional officers code 3 over his radio, which means hurry up. And he ordered the suspect to stop while continuing the pursuit. Despite his fear that the suspect was about to shoot him or shoot citizens, he maintained his emotional composure. And as he continued to pursue the suspect yielded to his commands after holding his gun up and throwing it. So after the gun was discarded, Officer Rapp went on hands-on with the suspect to safely take him into custody on the ground. And the armed suspect was well known to law enforcement as an active gang member and previously convicted felon, and the firearm recovered at the scene was determined to be loaded and had been reported stolen. 2 other subjects that were fighting were also active gang members. Witness statements revealed that the suspect had attempted to shoot one of the suspects he was fighting with several times. However, his gun malfunctioned. Just prior to fleeing from Officer Rapp, the suspect pistol whipped one of the subjects in the head, causing a large laceration which required immediate medical attention. The above described circumstances created a very stressful and challenging situation for any officer to have to navigate and resolve peacefully. The mindset, preparedness, composure, courage, and sound tactics utilized by Officer Rapp during the incident were nothing short of heroic. I have no doubt that Officer Rapp's professional service to our community saved at least one life that night, be it an innocent citizen, be it his own, or even the suspects. So with that, he is awarded the Guerry Award for Valor. Thank you very much.
You know, it's always so impressive to hear these stories and about these heroes who run toward danger instead of away from it. They go into a burning car instead of away from it. You know, those of us who are citizens of this community want to say thank you. We appreciate that. You talk with these guys and they'll all say, you know, it was my job. I just did what I was supposed to do. I did what I was trained to do. It's really no big deal. Well, it is a big deal. We appreciate it. We want to say thank you to all of you. Now, for all of you here, we're having dinner together. We at the Cabrillo Arts Center at on the beach, just near Milpas on Cabrillo Boulevard. Come on down. If you're watching on TV, sorry you're not invited, and think about what group you're crashing if you want to show up. And also, this is going to be rebroadcast for those who say, gee, I'd like to tape this at home or something. On the Government Channel 20, it will be rebroadcast 6 p.m. both Saturday and Sunday nights. Encourage you to watch it. Thank you all so much for being here to support these heroes.